Hey there friends, how's it going today? David Potts here with Song Notes, and today we're looking at All the Best. This is a song from John Prine that a lot of you have requested over on my Song Notes website, so I'm adding it to my library with this lesson. I'll teach you how to play it. Now this is a Travs-picking song, fingerstyle. If you're new to Travs-picking, I'll link to a bunch of related lessons that get you started with this. It's capo 5th fret, using key of G chords, right? Our G, our C, and our D is pretty much entirely what we're going to use. But as per usual with John Prine, he can take 3 chords that are standard and just find a way to get something sounding catchy and original and in your head. So that's the way it is with this song. I'll walk you through it, and let's dive on in. Just make sure you get my practice notes because you can follow along with everything I teach here. I'll link out to a lyric sheet as well, and I have a few bonus videos where I do playthroughs, slowly zoomed in, no singing. I'll talk about strumming in another one, all that sort of thing. It's over on my website, songnotes.net. All right, so getting started with this, I'm going to show you this Travs-picking training wheel thing I put together. This will get you really comfortable with the main riff immediately so you can just rock this song and be having fun with it in no time, okay? The main idea here is we need to know our G chord and our C over G, okay? This is basically a fancy way of playing C. And then with the G, ring finger, 3rd fret of the 6th string here, right? And the C over G, we're just gonna put these 2 fingers, our middle and our index, where they would normally go for a C. So think of this chord as a C, but it has a G bass note. And that's why it's called a C over G. The over G just means that the bass note is different than it normally would be, okay? The exercise I recommend getting started with is this one right here. For the G, what you wanna do is practice getting your right thumb, getting comfortable going between strings 6 and 4. Just do this over and over again to a steady groove, so you can have a controlled volume, all that sort of thing. And when you're ready, what I want you to do is with your index finger, add in the open 3rd string and the open 2nd string. And we're gonna do this at the end of the measure. It's gonna be just before the 4 count and just after the 4 count, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. And when you practice it, do it like I just did there, where you're doing it over and over and over again, and try to keep a steady tempo. Now, one thing you might want to quickly introduce, and you can do this in your first day of practice, right, is go between that chord, what I just showed you, and the C over G. Our right hand is doing the same thing in both exercises here. Only thing that's different is the chord shape that our left hand is making. But our left hand is just staying still, and our right hand is just picking the same strings every time. So basically, get comfortable with that training wheel exercise. You need to have that under control. And then next, let's look at this sort of G to C over G switch that this song does. This is the catchy riff, Right? That happens throughout the song. You need to just understand how to do this. There's 2 different contexts that disappears. Here's is what I recommend practicing to get used to this, right? The first one is what I'm calling variation 1. And really what that means is this is how you encounter this in the intro to this song. The measure is going to be mostly G, but in the last quarter note, right, for the last 4 16th notes, you're going to be playing the C over G chord. It's basically the exercises I showed you above. You're just switching to the C over G before the measure ends. I'm also introducing this pinch on the 1 count. What that means is you're going to play the bass note and the 2nd string at the same time. Thumb and index finger, they pinch. In my notes, I draw those with a sort of gray highlight there, just so you can kind of visually understand that's where you do the pinch. It's going to happen in the 1 count in this measure, okay? So it starts off the same and repeat it, okay? See how at the end there I'm going to the C over G shape? The way that I think about this, right, is when I was learning this, I do this 3 times, and after the 3rd time I pluck the 4th string, that's my cue to bring in my index finger to get that open 3rd string and 1st fret of the 2nd string, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And bring it in the pinch. Okay, this is what you need to have this under your belt and under control. And the perfect thing to do when you're starting, literally your first day of practice, is practice this exercise. Take it as slow as you need to. You want to get to the point where you can do this in a loop over and over again, kind of without thinking too much about it, right? Now, the other version of this, check this out. This is variation 2. This is how it happens during the verse. Now, this is the same exact thing. It's just everything is shifted by 2 beats, 2 quarter notes, right? And you could say it shifted forward or shifted backwards. It doesn't matter. But basically how it works here is after the first time we pluck the 4th string with our thumb, then we're going to do the C over G, right? And then we do the pinch on the 3 count. Okay, you want to be able to do that in a loop, in a loop, in a loop. So anyway, that's what you have to learn first. It's a great thing to practice on your first day. Once you have this, you have a lot towards what you're going to need to play this entire song. So now let's look at the intro. We learned the intro. We have 80% of everything. Okay, everything we learn in the intro is going to set us up for the verse. The verse is just basically repurposing the intro. Okay, and what I just showed you is going to pay off directly here. Okay, so for the intro to this song, this is line 1. It's a 4-line sequence. Okay, and don't get stressed because it's mostly the same thing, just repeating. Right. This first line. One of the new things it's introducing here is John Prine does this thing where he'll repeat a bass note 2 times in a row. He does it in Spite of Ourselves, right? The duet he does with Iris Dement. I have a lesson for that one as well. Check it out over on songnotes.net, my website. But he's going to start off, right, doing the 3rd fret of the thickest string and the open 3rd string. Do it twice, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. When you practice it, go from the 4 and 1. Bring in that 1 count pinch also. So it's 3 pinches in a row, right? So that's how things are going to start off, right? Now, from here on out, when we repeat this whole sequence, which I recommend doing when you're practicing it, you're going to start it from this 1 count, right? This first full measure. This first measure is basically exactly what we just learned in variation 1 of that little thing I just taught you. The only new note here is the note just after the 2 count, right? So we do our pinch. Okay, so this note, this open 3rd string that we're adding on the 16th note just after the 2, that's in the first full measure and the second full measure, and it's going to come up again throughout this song. So that's an example of something else that it's adding, right? The only other new thing in this first line is at the very end, we're going to do, right, this pinch, this sort of double pinch on the 6th string and 2nd string. It's over the C over G chord though, right? And then it's going to go back to the way this measure starts, this line starts, which is the 3rd fret, 6th string, and open 2nd string. So let's play this first line. And when you're learning this sort of thing, what you want to do is just break it off 1 line at a time and do that line over and over again. So for example, this first line, I'm going to play this little count in, this little pickup, and then I'm just going to play it twice. I'm going to play the full line twice, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, so that was me playing it through twice just to practice it. But now let's move on to line 2. Now line 2, it's going to basically introduce 1 new measure here. This first line, this first measure you see on the screen right now, this is the 3rd measure in the intro overall. But I'm going to call this the first measure you see on screen right here. Here we're going between D. Okay, what's going on with that D? You might be like, that does not look like a regular D chord. So when John Prine and lots of other folks do Travs-picking like this, their D is going to typically be something like this, right? A D7 over F sharp is what I call it. Let's look at page 1 of my practice notes here. I have all these chords written up for you. The 2 Ds he's going to use in this song are this one right here, where we're doing 2nd fret, muted, open, 2nd fret, and then we're going to leave the 2nd string open, okay? Technically, this would be a D, add 6 over F sharp, okay? Don't worry about that. Just think of this as a D. Just know that throughout this song, John Prine is using this a lot, okay? The way to do it is middle finger, 2nd fret, muted 5th string, open 4th string, and then 2nd fret of the 3rd string with our ring finger, and then open 2nd string, okay? May feel weird, but this is your D, and it's nice and easy to switch to. So basically, get used to going between this G and this D. Okay? Now, let's look at the tab again. So what we have here is the pinch on the 1 count. Okay, what's happening there is this is a little Travs-picking styling where we're in this D measure, this D half measure, we're not doing any pinches, right? It's all the bass notes and the syncopation, meaning all this stuff. That's what's happening on the thinnest strings. That's all happening in between the strong beats, in between the bass notes to be precise, right? So that's called syncopated, meaning it's not happening on the strong beat. So we start off with a pinch, right? Repeat the open second string, and then the second measure on screen right here, which is the 4th measure overall in the intro, that just repeats basically the main motif of the first 2 measures, okay? So let me play the first 4 measures I just taught you, because the next 4 measures kind of just repeat what I just did for the most part, right? So it's going to sound like this, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and... into the 3rd measure here. Now the 3rd measure, if you look at this, you're going to be like, oh, that looks just like the 2nd full measure in the intro, which it is exactly, right? And then this measure is going to repeat. So them 2 measures on screen right now are just the same thing twice in a row. Can't beat that, right? Sounds like this. And then we move into the final line of the intro, which is exactly what we've already learned, the G to the D. And then this final measure of G just sets us up for the verse, right? So we're going to start off with just the bass notes, and then a pinch on the 3 count, which is a bit new here. And then we start singing as we move into the verse. So that is how you play the intro. What I'll do is I'll put a clipped video of this with tabs on my lesson webpage as well. If you want to just reference something when you're practicing that's zoomed in without any talking, that's really slow. Now before I move to the verse, let me say I'll do a separate video on my lesson webpage, a bonus video where I talk about my secret stash arrangement of what I just taught you. When I say secret stash, I mean I take what John Prine plays and I modify a few things, right? There's a few things like those double bass notes he does I don't really love as much, so I kind of have my own preferred styling, and I tweak his tab a little bit, and it's kind of the way that I would play this song if I was doing a set at like a brewery or something, where I had to just make this my own. It's still recognizable as this song, right? All the best, but it has my own personal stylings on it, and I'm sharing that with you because I think it's a good skill to have as a guitarist. It's okay to make songs your own. It's great to learn things as artists play them in some cases, right? It introduces you to things you might not normally ever do. But also, there's a place for making things your own. So that's a bonus video over at songnotes.net. Let's move on into the verse really quick and learn how to play the rest of this song. So what we learned in the intro is going to get us, again, 80% of the way there. The remaining 15-20% that's coming up in the next couple lines of the verse here. There's a few small changes. I'll quickly talk you through, okay? In the verse, you're going to notice that the G to C over G to G is going to happen always in the first half of each measure that it happens, okay? And this is so it doesn't interrupt with the singing, and it also is just part of John Prine's brilliance, where he can take three chords, mix them up in different ways where it always kind of feels unique and authentic, but it also just feels effortless, like it goes down really well, right? So we look at the first line of the verse here. You see the lyrics on top. Notice how we're just going to do, basically this was variation 2 in that exercise I taught you. Do that twice. Second line. Okay, so what I just played there was the first line of each lyric of the verse, and you're going to repeat what I just did twice, and the lyrics are going to change. So I'm going to sing just the first 2 lines of the song while I play over this so you understand the context. Singing and picking this is really hard to do, but I'm going to show you how it sounds for context, all right? I wish you love and happiness. I guess I wish you all the best. I wish you don't do like I do and ever fall in love with someone like you. Okay, so that is how the first part of the verse sounds. Now, there's one thing that happens at the end of the final measure the second time you play it through, and you see this here, right? Basically, look at the final measure. I'm going to play it like normal. Okay, that's how you would normally play it, but the second time you play it through, you're going to move to verse line 3, and we need to do this walk up. That's what John Prine does. It sounds like this. The only thing different is the bass note, the final 2 bass notes, right? 5th string, open to 2nd fret, so the whole measure. Okay, and then we move into this 3rd line of the verse. This is the last part that's new, okay? Here, what we're going to do is go from a measure of C, right? The measure of C is going to be like, 'cause if you feel just like I did, then we're on G. We're going to stay on G. You'd probably walk around the block like a little kid. Okay, now a couple new chord shapes here. Let me pull up the chords here. Again, these are on page 1 of my practice notes. The C, it's going to be a regular C chord, and we're going to add our pinky to the 3rd fret of the thinnest string. Okay, technically you're coming from a G, so if your pinky is already here, you just move your rest of your fingers into a C shape, and you're good to go, all right? We're going to need this 3rd fret, that's why we're putting our finger there. And then later on the 2nd line of this, we're going to have this D, but instead of leaving the 2nd string open, we're going to do this D7 over F sharp voicing, where we have our index finger right here. He uses this all the time. He uses this in Clay Pigeons and lots of other songs, right? Really, it's a really relatively friendly chord to switch to, and you're going to use it all the time in Travs-picking. Okay, so this 3rd line of the verse is going to sound like this, right? I wish. Let me not sing it first, and I'll play it, right? So 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, so let me do it with singing for context there. Again, it's all relatively standard stuff. The only difference is we're going to have this little motif, right? I think of it that way at least. I don't know if that's a proper word, where the filler notes, the melody notes he adds are going to follow the same rhythmic pattern. It goes up, stays up, and comes down, right? So for the C, goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. This one, just idling the engine. Then the D goes up, comes down, and ends on a G. Okay? All right, y'all, so everything I've taught you is basically all you need to play this song. Over on my website, I'll link out to my practice notes. They show the tabs for the verse, for the post-verse instrumental section, which is basically just more of the same, right? The outro, the intro, everything you need is there. The chord shapes, those exercises I taught you, it's all in my practice notes. I'll link out to the lyric sheet I recommend. And there's some bonus videos where I talk about, I do the slow playthroughs. I'll do one about strumming. If you want to strum this song, I'll give you some tips. I'll do slow playthroughs of the intro, the verse, and I'll just do a general singing cover as well. So that's all over there, songnotes.net. That's my website. Check it out. Thanks for watching. I have plenty of other John Prine lessons as well. I think you'll dig them. So I'll see you in the next lesson, my friends. And until next time, take care and bye-bye.